Welcome to episode 121 of the Rip Strip Podcast, the Avs and Clyde down the Lightning edition of the Rip Strip Podcast. I'm your host, Philip Matthew, and I'm here with my co-host, Josh Fun. What's going on, man?
I'm doing great, Phil. Yeah, exactly right there. The Colorado Avalanche go out and defeat the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Tampa Bay doesn't pull off the three-peat in the NHL. But of course, that happened, and I'm a Florida guy, so I guess a little bit sad, of course, that Tampa didn't win. But I'm not really too much into hockey. Certainly not as much as you are, seemingly. So glad to see your team win, I guess, and everything. But it was great NHL playoffs that we saw there. But of course, it's not a hockey playoff podcast, but it is a sports podcast, so it is a little bit relevant there. And then, of course, the racing side of things, and we had an interesting weekend of racing for sure at Nashville. A lot of things happened on Sunday. Lightning did strike, so there was that. I mean, struck multiple times, struck twice. I think on Sunday at the Cup race, and of course, the trucks and Xfinity as well on Friday and Saturday night afternoon at Nashville. So we had a lot of action, just a NASCAR only weekend. And glad to talk about it with you on the podcast.
Yeah, we talked about the trucks on episode 120, of course, with Joe Passero, because we were actually doing the show live. So we'll just spend our time here tonight talking about the Xfinity race, which Justin Allgaier dominated, and then the Cup race, which William Clyde Elliott II came through and faded those Gibbs Toyotas to go and get the victory there. He takes his second win of the year and will take that momentum in a Road America, which he won last year in the first time that they were at Road America with the Cup Series in decades, since the 50s. So Clyde's trying to win two in a row. But we'll get into all the stuff that happened there. Toyotas were dominant. The Gibbs cars were up front all day and night, and pitch strategy, different things happened to where they weren't able to come through. So we'll get into why that was the case. Bubba Wallace stood out, of course, for having a fastest car in practice. Didn't have a great qualifying run. Followed Kyle Busch, who wrecked his car in qualifying, up through the front of the pack until his pit crew, did what they usually do, leaving a wheel loose. So that means Booty Barker will spend another 4 weeks at home, and the tire changer and carrier will be also at home. I guess Michael Jordan loves paying people to sit at home because they haven't fixed their pit crew there.
Did they though? I mean, I know that they had a loose wheel and everything, but they made it back to pit road, and maybe I don't understand the rule completely because I thought it was if the wheel comes off, but maybe not.
I don't know. I mean, I figure if the wheel is loose, I mean, there's different things. It's like if it comes off, it's 4 weeks. Yeah, that's for sure. I guess I spoke out of song there, so if I'm wrong on that, I apologize.
Chris Buescher's crew is definitely getting suspended, but
yeah,
yeah,
they definitely left the wheel loose, but that basically ended Bubba's chances there yesterday. I will talk about, of course, Allgaier, as I mentioned earlier. Roundup is very jam-packed. We have SRX. Anthony Wayne Stewart got his first win of the year in an entertaining show on Saturday night. I think most of the entertainment happened away from the front of the pack. It happened more in the pits than it did on the racetrack, to be fair. 6 hours at the Glen took place with Acura's finishing 1-2, and the points battle is essentially between the two of them. We'll talk about the Mosport entry list as well, since they're going to be racing there this weekend, first time in a few years. Moto GP and Moto 2 raced in Assen this past weekend, one of the historic landmark motorcycle circuits, and Pecco Bagnaia gets a win, and Fabio Quartararo crashes himself twice, tightening up the point standings there. NHRA raced at Norwalk, Ohio, this past weekend. There were some cool moments from the Goodwood Festival of Speed. Max Chilton actually looked useful for once. There were other cool cars that took place that went there. Pikes Peak Hill Climb. As we're getting close, of course, to July the 4th. Pikes Peak Hill Climb took place. Issues with fog slowed the field down relative to what they've done in recent years. We'll preview Formula E at Marrakesh this coming weekend. Some news has come down in regards to some of the drivers that may be there or will be there. McLaren has a new partner that will sponsor their Formula E program and their Extreme E program, Saudi funded, which is convenient since their sport washing goes to not only golf, which Live Golf will be playing this weekend in Portland, but then there'll be also sport washing in Formula One with their sponsorship there. Formula 2, Formula 3, and W Series all return at Silverstone. Formula 3 and W Series is going to have a busy month ahead. Formula 2 just kind of going with their flow. Their schedule has a little bit more flow compared to the other two. We'll preview the British Grand Prix for Formula 1, Indycar at Mid-Ohio this coming weekend. Cup and Xfinity will be at Road America. Josh will do his thing with the sim segment, and then we'll close the deal. I'd be remiss before we get into the racing. Of course, for me, I was more focused on the Colorado Avalanche. First time in 21 years that they've won the Stanley Cup. I was a young guy back then. I was in high school the last time freaking Avalanche won the Stanley Cup. Joe Sakic was on the ice as a player, not the GM, the last time the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup. Patrick Waugh, my favorite player, was the goaltender. You had Peter Forsberg. You had so many great players. Ray Bourque, the legend from Boston, retired after that. We had Rob Blake from the LA Kings. We had so many great players back then, and beat the New Jersey Devils, which was just huge. And then this moment with this crew, the core group with Nathan McKinnon, who they drafted, they were dead last in the league a few years ago. Gabriel Landeskog, who's been the captain for 10 years, and has fought through all this losing. McKinnon, they drafted 1 overall. They lost out on many guys that have starred in the league because they didn't win the lottery, but they got McKinnon. They got Cale Makar, who won the Norris Trophy for Best Defensive Player last week, and then won the Conn Smythe Trophy yesterday for the best player in the playoffs. And he's 23 years old, and he's one of like 3 guys that's ever done that at that age or whatever, which is just insane. Arturi Lehkonen gets the game winner, guy they picked up in the trade deadline. A lot of great trade deadline players that they got there. They sold off some of their future for this year, but in the grand scheme of things, their core is there and it's been there. And yeah, they're going to have to see how they're going to sign certain people like Nazem Kadri and the like. Darcy Kemper, who was a goalie that was able to get us over the hump. But he got hurt, and our backup was able to play well in the Western Conference Finals and get us through there, Francois. So, I mean, there's a whole lot to talk about. Hockey, of course, now goes into their off season. The Stanley Cup has already been damaged before they even barely had it for a few seconds, and it's already got damaged, so it's kind of funny. But every single one of them guys gets to celebrate with the cup. Nathan McKinnon gets to go and show his boy Sidney Crosby that he can win one too. So it's a pretty big deal. For me as a fan, I'm probably going to waste a lot of money on merch because it hasn't happened in 21 years. So likely going to have some of that championship merch, get a Cale Makar jersey here as we get going, because that MFer can play, man. But it was huge, just the anxiety of that whole deal. They lost Game 5 on Friday, and it was a bummer. But I kind of felt, and it's funny, I was talking to the beautiful Katie Mox on Instagram, and I was talking about how nervous I was about it gutting in a game 5, which was a closeout game. And she's like, well, yeah, I think they're going to win game 5, but I think Colorado's going to win game 6. So, well, Katie Mox is right. You should listen to her podcast. She's on Omaha Productions. So, Moxie Bets. So, I'm doing free promotion for a beautiful woman that does a podcast and knows her stuff. So, in part because she was right. She went and predicted that Colorado would go and win Game 6 and win the Stanley Cup. And by golly, she was right, and I'm very happy. So we have the hockey. The Yankees are the best team in baseball, 11 games up. Aaron Judge freaking fucked the Houston Astros in the ass with a 3-run shot in the 10th yesterday to get a second walk-off in 4 days. Every home run, I think, is at least $1 million. He has 28 home runs so far this year, hoping he'll hit like 70 or something, 60 or 70 home runs. The Yankees, every home run that's going to cost them more because they have to sign him. So he's the MVP of baseball right now for how good he is. So baseball's looking good. Hockey, they finally win again. I don't give a crap about basketball anymore. And football, of course, I do. And we're going to definitely get into that here in a month's time when training camp really starts taking off. There's a lot of positivity and hope and energy going for both of our squads. I mean, for Jacksonville, it's 5 years since they were on the precipice of getting to the Super Bowl with one of the best defenses there has been in a while, and a lot of those players have contributed elsewhere to some great defenses. And some of their offensive players now are from that team are now across the NFL too. But you have Trevor Lawrence, and then in the Niners' case, we have Trey Lance. So two the best young talents in the league, and a great coach, head coach that's won a Super Bowl
Peterson.
in Jacksonville, and a guy who has a lineage has the lineage of Super Bowls and has been there and 7 minutes away from a Super Bowl a couple years ago. Takes a team last year and gets to a few minutes of another Super Bowl. So times are bright, at least on the sports side.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that, and we'll get into that more. But it was a huge night as a sports fan for me to watch the Colorado Avalanche win. And once that was over, and I changed over from the celebration, the race was still on, and William Clyde Elliott had snuck around the leading contenders there, the likes of Martin Truex and Kyle Busch, and was able to lead the last 42 laps of the race to, it says K Busch, but the problem is there's
It's
Kurt
KU
Busch and
Busch,
Kyle
not
Busch.
KY Busch.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Like they in lead changes, they don't bother to emphasize that, which is not good. But William Clyde Elliott II takes his second win of the 2022 season. 42 laps, led the last 42 laps of the race last night, finished after midnight there. Kurt Busch finished second, Ryan Blaney third, Kyle Larson, the defending race winner, and of course, defending series champion, finished fourth. Ross Chastain gets another top 5 finish for Trackhouse Racing. Denny Hamlin started on pole, led the most laps, finished sixth. Let's see, Cindric from 24th to 7th, Christopher Bell 8th, Joey Logano 9th, Kevin Harvick 10th. Eric Jones finished 11th, even though his car was on fire for a little bit. Bubba Wallace from 30th to 12th, even with all the pit road issues, tells you how fast that car was. Martin Truex Jr. won both stages, led 82 laps, and but he finished 22nd. Kyle Busch came from 36th, scored stage points in both stages, led twice for 54 laps, but finished 21st. Yeah, I mean that's the main pieces. I mean Byron had issues. Bowman wrecked early in the race. Chase Briscoe and frickin' Ty Dillon got into it, and Briscoe's whole weekend was a disaster, anyways. I mean, his wife made a horrendous comment about a certain topic that's very big in our society these days, relative to what her and her husband have had to deal with in regards to having a child, and she had to close her freaking account. That should tell you, bad takes. But then Brad Keselowski had another bad take, and it kind of makes sense that he's running as bad as he is too. So that's beside the point. But Josh, yeah, Clyde goes and wins. He's going to a road course here this coming weekend that he's won at. Momentum would be on his side, but it wasn't as straightforward as it seems for William Clyde Elliott II.
Yeah, no, it wasn't straightforward, and it seemed like at the beginning of the race when it was running at the scheduled time, daytime, they really weren't anywhere near the lead. Really, I mean, I think they were running, top 10, like kind of like on the edge of the top 5, but they didn't really, have that competitiveness like Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. had shown early on in that race, and they were able to basically take advantage of the rainfall and cautions to be able to take the lead towards the end of the race, and they were able to keep the lead and drive, keep on driving, to the end at the lead, and they were able to survive a couple of restarts, survive battling Kyle Busch for the lead and Danny Hamlin. Then they were able to he was able to take the lead and keep it on the final restart against Kurt Busch there. So it was definitely a interesting race, for sure. I mean, we talked about it before the Open there with the last caution. Joe Gibbs Racing, they went and decided to pit for some weird reason. Gave up a lot of track position. I think maybe the thinking there, in my opinion, was you're hoping to get better tires than Chase Elliott, hoping that overcomes any disadvantage in dirty air, and also hoping that very few cars stay out. And that didn't really happen. You had basically they got shuffled out of the top 10, and when that happens, a track that's like hard to pass, it's very difficult to make it back up to the lead. And I mean, Danny Hamlin was able to get back to but he was able to get back to sixth place. So it did kind of work, and as far as scoring a top 10, but ultimately they're trying to go for wins. So they unable to break through and get that third victory, which would put them at the most wins for the season. So now they're all tied with Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain, William Byron for the lead in terms of wins overall in the season. So bad gamble there, but of course, when you have multiple wins, you can afford it. Being able to do that with the playoff system in the Cup Series, so that's, I guess, the strategy there for Denny Hamlin. Of course, it was also a strategy for Martin Truex Jr. and he ran up front, led 82 laps, and came home in 22nd, and Kyle Busch coming home in 21st. So two cars that were up in the top 5, top 10 at the end of the race ended up not finishing in the top 10 and outside of the top 20 because they took a bad gamble on pit stops. So, yeah, very unfortunate strategy there. And it seemed like, they were very, I guess, different than what they would normally be, because it seemed like they were taking kind of a short strategy on pitting. They were one of the first cars to pit Denny Hamlin and Truex Jr. on the what was assumed to be the final stint of the race on pit stops. They were one of the first cars to peel off and go onto pit road. So a little bit different than what people had thought they had might be doing. And I mean, it did seem to kind of work, but then the cautions went against them. So they tried to play it differently there and ended up losing there. And then, of course, their satellite team, 2311 Racing, the 23, I think he was also one of the first cars to pit on that final sequence. And then the 45 stayed out and was able to hedge that into being up front with Chase Elliott there at the very end. But Bubba Wallace, I think he had probably one of the best cars, if not maybe one of the best, the best car that whole race weekend, and they were only able to get 12th place
Best car in
finish.
practice.
Yeah, that's true. They had the fastest car, and that's kind of what I put my eye on this weekend because they had that fastest lap in the first practice. Didn't qualify too well and started way in the back in 30th, and kind of kept my eye on him. Throughout the beginning portion of the race, trying to see if he would move up through the field, and he's able to get up into the top 10 relatively quickly, and got up to think maybe like fifth or sixth place before the rains, and then after all that happened, they kind of fell back, and of course they had a loose wheel, which they recovered from, and they got back up to about like 11th place there. But then they got caught, on the pit stop when they got caught a lap down after pitting under green during that final pit sequence, and they had to take a wave around, and they got mired back in 25th, and then they had to use the last caution to leapfrog back into the top 15, and then finish in 12th. So up and down day for that team, and they probably deserved to have a better finish than that, but it's still 12th place after going through all of that is probably not a bad result. So at least they kind of salvaged that finish, and you're able to, a 25 or 25th place finish is certainly better than 23rd or 25th. So, 12th place finish. Sorry, 12th place finish is better than a 21st or 22nd place finish. So, better something than nothing for that team. So, you seeing the speed that the Toyotas have, they just need to be able to, I guess, have a better strategy and be able to, maximize the results that they get. Of course, that's what Kurt Busch did, and certainly had a chance to maybe get something from Chase Elliott, but maybe went against his better instinct and ended up settling for second there. So I think this race, there's a lot of passing throughout the field, even though, yeah, track position was important, especially on a track like this. I mean, you did see the drivers really having to drive the car throughout the corners, and being able to make moves. And there's a bunch of three wide racing at different points during the race. There was a point when Ross Chastain was battling Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex Jr. For, I think, second place. Kyle Busch was driving away, but that was a pretty entertaining exchange there. The last sequence of racing, you know, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, and Denny Hamlin were all kind of battling for position, and they're basically having to put slide jobs in each other to be able to pass. So this car continues to show the volatility throughout the field, throughout each team and driver, and certainly a very entertaining aspect there. So I think we're continuing to see the product that I guess they intended to bring out with this car on the bigger tracks. Still, jury's still out on short track racing with this car, but it seems like the bigger tracks seem to perform better with this car. So good on there, and I think overall, I mean, if it weren't for the rain, I think people maybe would have had a little bit more better positive outlook on this race, of course. And then you talk about Brad Keselowski running poorly. I mean, they were up there, towards the end. They got up to the top 10, I think, and they were kind of in that range, top 15, top 10, and then they got crashed after the final restart, and they, the six car was kind of, he was going, but he was way off the pace and on the apron, and it does, put into question the caution, mentality and everything, like wanting to get the race
Forgot
over
about
with.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wanting to get the race over with, and you saw in the last lap, he was basically like having to pull over on the grass, and he was basically at that point at a snail's crawl, essentially, while the rest of the field was zipping on by. So bad on safety aspect there, especially after one of the last cautions was basically for nothing. Not that caution, but I think one of the 77 possible fluid turn four. I think, yeah, because he blew an engine, so that that wasn't. I mean, it wasn't as egregious as this, not throwing a six car or throwing a caution for the six car being off the pace on the last lap or with 2 laps to go. So, yeah, I mean, it's the consistently inconsistent, enforcement of yellow
Yeah,
flags.
there's a
But
debris on
yeah,
track caution with
well,
44 laps to go.
the tire caution. That was the one with Chris Buescher losing a tire, so that got classified as debris there, even though that was because of his incident losing a tire, basically because that's technically a debris caution, so that's why that got listed as that. But
Yeah, and then the possible fluid leak.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument on either of those. I saw the, excuse me, I saw the, what's his name? Um, what's his, not Reum, what the hell? Balicki going and blowing up. But it was like, okay, he was off the racing line, he came off the track, and it wasn't affecting anything, but the going and not throwing a yellow when Brad's car is going at 10 miles an hour is, typical when a Hendrick car is leading. So there was two things going on there. That was the Hendrick car is leading, and it's the most popular driver.
it was
Number
also
one,
12 a.m.
and they this has been going on for 7 hours. 6.5 hours this has been going on since they decided the infinite wisdom of between NBC, NASCAR, and all these people. Let's start a race at 5:23 in the afternoon in the South, in the Mid South, where you're going to have issues with thunderstorms, lightning, and all that. They couldn't put it on NBC because they had women's golf on. Then I forget what the hell they had. They had running. They had some sort of track and field event from 4 to 5 or 3. Yeah. So they had to preempt the golf over to CNBC because it took so effing long because they were playing so slow. Then on USA, they had episodes of SVU from like 20 years ago on. And then they only showed half of the 6 hours at the Glen on TV. You had to get Peacock to see the whole race. And then after that, they started showing SVU again. And then once it got to 10 o'clock, they moved the cup race over to USA till its conclusion. So, and they got rid of NBCSN. So, they could have, there's any number of TV things we can get into why you're starting a race at 5:30. It's the same reason why I don't want to go to the cup race at Pocono because I'm not going to be there. I'm almost certain that I'm going to tailgate. I'm going to have a good time, hang out with people, and I'm going to be out the freaking door before that race even starts because I'm not even trying to stay there because that race is going to start at 3. They're saying it's going to start at 3:45. There's going to be rain. There's going to be something. And I know it because it always happens at Pocono or Dover and all these Northeast tracks, which is why they're running them out the door. You blame weather. It's a fucking summer. You know that lightning, thunder, all that's going to happen. It's for you, Josh, with Daytona. When they had the July the 4th race there, they'd always have qualifying in the middle of the afternoon when the thunderstorms were most likely to happen. Yep. Boris said got DNQ'd out of 2 races when he was on pole. He was on pole for he won the pole, I think, at least once for the Coke Zero 400.
Yeah, that was in 2007. I remember that.
And then like 06, or 06, I felt like he qualified on pole and he lost that race to Tony. And then in 07, he had the pole and they didn't finish qualifying and he went home. Or something like that. Like, whatever it is, like, that's the kind of shit that happens. But then that's NASCAR. It's just how they put the way they put themselves into these spots. And it's like, when are we going to learn? I get NASCAR doesn't care. Obviously, the Francis and all, they don't care. But it's like, you're fucking with fans, number one. You're fucking with people who are actually spending money who want to go there. It's hot as fuck in Nashville, and they're like, oh, that's the reason why we did it, because it was so hot last year and people were passing out. I'm like, well, cover the effing grandstands. I know there's some LCD MFers like, oh, you guys are not tough enough to deal with it. I'm like, you know what? I know what I'm dealing with in my own personal health situation. I ain't trying to go and sit there and die for a freaking NASCAR race. Go fuck yourself. For a NASCAR race? If I'm going to go to the Super Bowl, okay, fine. That's fine. I did it. I have. And I basically drank enough where I was basically a half functioning character the next day anyway, but I had to get on a plane and I had to go home. But the difference is that's a Super Bowl. You're going to tell me I'm going to go to the Bumblefuck 350 and I'm going to go and sit in 100-degree weather? No. The point, come on, man. For 40 something years, 45 years, whatever, 50, no, like over 55 years, they started races at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And you were able to do it, and it worked just fine. And then Brian France came in and just ruined it all.
Yeah, it's what happens when you sell out to the TV executives and let a bunch of people with suits, run the sport or basically dictate the sport.
And that's why we are where we are. It used to be NASCAR was like right below all the big time sports. And then they figured out a way to bury themselves below, in a lot of circles, below even other motorsports. Now they're below Formula One. So what does that say? They were below Formula One and IndyCar, and Formula One wasn't even here. And Formula One didn't even come back to the United States until the year 2000. At that point, NASCAR had already taken over and did all that. But they were at a point back in the early 90s where they were battling against IndyCar and losing. And when I first started watching the sport, watching motorsports. So it's like, that's where you're going. You know, who are you marketing to? Are you marketing to people that, are you trying to get people to show up that are going to go and sit there and spend, they're going to say, well, you should just show up later. I'm like, okay, if I show up later, I'm going to be parked in the middle of nowhere and I won't be able to experience everything the way I want to because all the stuff's going to happen earlier in the day. Or you're expecting me to come early in the morning so I can go and experience all the different things they're going to have in the midway, go to some tents, do some things, die cast hunt, whatever, because I'm a fan, legitimate fan, not one of these LCD morons. And I'm going to end up spending 3/4 of my day. I'm going to spend from, say, 8 o'clock when the track opens in the morning till 3 o'clock because you have no action. It's like, why the fuck would you do that? It's like they have a perfect example is Pocono, which we'll get into between now and the end of by the time we get there. ARCA's running on Friday afternoon for no reason whatsoever. Who the hell cares? Who the hell's going to sit there and go to an ARCA race on Friday afternoon? If you're going to have like a cup practice or going to have qualifying or something, okay, fine, and then you're going to have an ARCA race. No. You're going to have the Xfinity and the truck race on Saturday, I think. I know that. Yeah, the truck race is a playoff race, and then Sunday is just the Cup race. Put the goddamn ARCA race on at 12 o'clock, so then you get 2 races. I mean, albeit the ARCA race will be horrible, but the fact because it'll be horrible, but at least I get to see Raja Caruth or something. I get to see Nick Sanchez or some of these other people that are next talent in the sport. You emphasize the talent. You emphasize a ticket. Instead, I'm going to have to go and I'm going to have to spend 7.5 hours there before I even get action. And if there's any delays, I'm fucked because I'm not going to be able to go back to the next day. It's mind-boggling to me how NASCAR works. It's like, well, you still watch it. I'm like, well, we have a motorsports podcast. But as we've already went over here on this program earlier, I was preoccupied. Josh did his had the journalistic integrity to go and watch the whole deal.
I mean, I'm still interested in it also.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm interested in it too, but I wasn't interested
it's racing
in it
at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was interested in it, but I wasn't as interested as I would be most weekends, in large part because I had an obvious reason. So we'll see what happens with that. We're in the dog days of summer here, the first of 20 weeks in a row that NASCAR will be racing. So obviously we'll be talking about it every week here. Get into the points right now in regards to the playoff standings. Chase Elliott has a 30-point lead on Ross Chastain overall for the regular season title. Ryan Blaney's 1 point behind Ross Chastain in third overall, but his actual standing is 13th. It was looking like for a second there that Truex was going to end up getting that win, and he would have ended up being the 13th different winner in 17 races, which would have been something. Right now, 5 drivers have won 2 races. Denny Hamlin is behind. His actual point standings has him behind. He's outside of the top 20, or he's 20th in points or something like that. His actual standing is 20th in points at 374. He's behind every other winner so far this year, which isn't, but then that's actually getting really close. You have Cindric, Briscoe, Suarez all there. All have they're very close by to Denny Hamlin. So something to see with that. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys ahead of or 8 guys within that group that have not won a race. So the notion that more than 16 winners could happen is still there. You have 12 right now. Blaney, Truex, Bell, and Harvick are your 16 drivers. Eric Almirola is 9 points behind in 17th, behind Kevin Harvick for the cutoff. And then Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon are basically tied. 400 points for Reddick, 399 for Austin Dillon, 394 for Eric Jones. Makes up the top 20 in the Cup point standings. So essentially, if you are, that's nearly 40 points behind Eric Jones's Eric Almirola, from Eric Almirola. If you're outside of that, right now, and you look at some of the people, Bubber, who won, of course, last year, Busher, who had a chance at Sonoma, McDowell, who won the 500 and is having probably the best year of his career, honestly. He's 19 points behind Denny Hamlin. Justin Haley, the colleague team, they won last year with AJ Allmendinger. You look at that. Stenhouse, who got an extension, but he's 25th in points. They've had some good runs. After that, Brad Keselowski is 30th in points. He is, just as for instance, he has minus 10 playoff points because of the big penalty they got. He is, 165 points behind Tyler Reddick right now, who is 13th overall in points. So that is really bad. So we'll see what happens. Road Americas this weekend. Can the Roush guys make something happen after what they found in their most recent road course testing? They both seem to do well there. Can Brad Keselowski backdoor one in the land of cows and horses, since he looks like one? Or can Chris Buescher come through and win for the first time since Pocono in
2016?
16. I was there at that race. Got fogged out. Tony finished third in that race. I forget who finished second, but Tony finished third in that race. So I was pretty happy about that. Get into the Xfinity race there. They had the Tennessee Lottery 250, which sees Justin Allgaier get another win this season. They haven't posted the points yet, which is interesting. I don't know why the heck they haven't posted the points yet, but Justin Allgaier is your winner. And there's driver points. There you go. So Allgaier wins over Trevor Bayne, Riley Herbst, who qualified on pole, Ty Gibbs, Sam Mayer, and Ryan Preece was driving for BJ McLeod in a Stewart-Haas prepared vehicle, finished 6th. Jeffrey Earnhardt finished 7th for Sam Hunt Racing. Austin Hill, Ryan Sieg, and Brett Moffitt finished in the top 10. Brandon Brown finished 10th or 11th. Parker Retzlaff finished 12th. Gagson 13th. Bruckshot Jones 14th. Stephen Parsons 15th. And AJ Allmendinger, who led the second most laps in the race, finished 16th. So pretty much it was Justin Allgaier won both stages, max points here. Great job by him, just destroying the field, continuing the domination of junior motorsports. And as a Dale Jr. fan and all that, Josh, that was pretty cool on their part. Sam Mayer getting into it with Ty Gibbs was also interesting. There was, it was kind of like the side stories were like Bane, he's from Tennessee, to go and win in Nashville would have been huge, coming back and all, talking about his career or resurgence and actually wanting to drive. Ty Gibbs wasn't the fastest car out there by any stretch of imagination, but he was up there for the first time in a while. Merrill looked like he had a good piece. Gagson was doing his best. Tim Richmond prior to getting the HIV impression with the mullet and the whole bit. I mean, that was basically junior motorsports and Justin Allgaier benefit there. And in terms of the points, he gets himself into the mix a little bit. Now only 32 points behind AJ Allmendinger in overall for that 15 playoff points, which would be huge because right now the top 5 are very close in regards to overall points are all relatively close in playoff points too. 75 in overall points, and their playoff points are only separated by 6. So AJ Allmendinger really needs those 15 playoff points because he's the lowest amount at the moment. But we're going to have multiple road courses coming along, so that might go in his favor. But yeah, Allgaier wins and inserts himself right into the conversation as a championship contender, along with his 2 of his teammates in Gregson and Barry, and even to a lesser extent his other teammate in Sam Mayer. Junior Motorsports has their stuff on deck right now, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting weekend for the 7 team. I talked about it in our preview on Friday, talking about the race, and I think I said Ty Gibbs, I picked him, but I said, look out for Justin Allgaier. He's good on these concrete racetracks, and certainly turned out to be a good good thought there. Especially he went out and won the first 2 stages and had no problem being able to battle through it and go out and win the overall race. Had to, there were some points where had to fight Ty Gibbs and battle him, but once he got through with that, he was able to go out and win the race. So yes, pretty successful weekend for Justin Allgaier, the number 7 team, and Trevor Bayne continuing to post solid finishes in his limited seat time in the 18 car. AJ Allmendinger won the pole, but he didn't really do much with it, and then ended up finishing outside the top 10 in 16th, or he was started second then, but he was up there for most of the race, and then ended up finishing in 16th. So kind of went away from him there, especially leading 43 laps in that race. I think Riley Herbst also had a pretty good weekend, although he didn't. He finished 3rd, so yeah, he was up there, though he didn't lead any laps starting on pole. So he was able to battle AJ Allmendinger at certain points throughout the race, and then Ty Gibbs got into it with Sam Mayer. I don't think Sam Mayer made any contact initially, got him loose. Just it was air off the spoiler kind of deal, and they made contact as he was spinning, so it saved him from causing a caution and also from crashing. So they were able to continue there, and I guess this time they didn't get into it afterwards on the racetrack or on pit road. So I guess they will fight that battle a different day, but not really the same deal, I guess, as it was in Martinsville. But Sam Mayer had a good run as well, and so did Ryan Preece, and it was a bit of a recovery there after Josh Berry spun out and kind of got collected into that, but managed to come back for Ryan Preece, come back and finish sixth. Jeffrey Earnhardt, I think, is a bit of a surprise in the 26 car. Not only a car you see up there in the top 10, but he's able to go up there and drive the car up into the top 10. Started 11th, so had a pretty good start to the race, and he was able to keep it there and finish in seventh. So pretty good finish for that team and for him. Being on a limited schedule, possibly get more seat time there. Parker Retzlaff, good race for him, finishing 12th, so solid race there. So um, I think another team that we probably need to start talking about is a team that could be on the downside is Colleague Racing. Both of them finished outside the top 10 in the 10 car and the 11 Daniel Hemrick and Landon Castle. I think they were kind of towards like the top 10 at the beginning of the race, but they faded and then ended up finishing a lap down 17th and 18th and just haven't had the speed. I think even Allmendinger hasn't really seemed quite as good this year as he was last year. And I think maybe they're starting to spread themselves a little bit too thin. They went and got up into the Cup Series, two cars running there. One rotating seat and then the other full time with Justin Haley. So wonder if maybe the resources going there are beginning to pull away or hinder their performance on the Xfinity side. And I think this year you're kind of seeing that. I mean, I think Allmendinger is still running up there up front, but I think they're that's all on talent and crew strategy, and not sure it's all on speed because I haven't really seen them, being flat out as good as they were last year overall. So, I think that's one thing to consider as we move forward, especially for AJ Allmendinger. How long can he keep this points lead for? He's currently the points leader in the series, but that could change here in the next couple of weeks, depending on how well they're able to run low relative to the field. So pressure is going to be on him to be able to maximize his points situation as we get closer and closer to the end of the regular season in the Xfinity Series and transfer into the playoffs for the series. So it's going to be one thing to look at there. As we watch and monitor the championship fight for the title, as you mentioned, there's five cars right now that or five drivers that could potentially win this regular season deal. So you'll have to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, right now I agree with you with Colleague and especially spreading yourself too thin. Their cup effort is not exactly the greatest. They've had their moments here and there, but is it at the expense of the Xfinity program, which had been very, very good? Um, but to be honest, they were very centric towards plate racing and road courses. Outside of that, they weren't exactly doing a whole lot of work at tracks generally. Yeah, all I you could go back to last year. AJ won Atlanta. AJ won before it became a shithole super speedway. Then he won at Bristol. Okay, fine, completely or finish second, whatever at Bristol. I think it was something like they were wrecking off the final corner there, but they were running up front. But you think about what Haley was doing, he wasn't doing a whole lot. And then Jeb Burton, they decided they didn't even want him no more. And I mean, if you look at social media, he gets a lot of heat these days for his driving now. So it's kind of a rough time for him. But Colleague Racing right now, they have to figure out what they really want out of this deal. I mean, all three drivers right now, generally points wise, are going to make it. It's very hard to fathom people behind them going and moving up and backdooring wins. This is an opportunity race this coming weekend at Road America in this calendar to see if they'll be able to do something. I mean, right now the points, Allmendinger has a 25-point lead on Gibbs, 32 on Allgaier, 42 on Gregson, 75 on Josh Berry. All of them have at least 2 wins. Ty Gibbs has 3. Gibbs has 18 playoff points. As I mentioned before, AJ Allmendinger has 12. Everybody else is within that range. After that, you don't have anybody with more than 6 playoff points. That's Buckshot Jones, who has 1 win. Austin Hill has 1 win. Hemrick has 2 stage wins, which are both from Daytona, and he hasn't really done much else since. Sam Mayer has 2 stage wins. You look at the point standings right now. Sieg is 69 points. 69! Ahead of Anthony Alfredo for the cutoff. That's essentially what it is. Myatt Snyder, if he had won at Portland a couple weeks ago, that could have played a big part. Sheldon Creed had a good qualifying, but wasn't able really to make anything happen. The RCR situation on the Xfinity side isn't as good as it has been, but I think it's probably akin to them trying to emphasize their cup effort because neither of their drivers are locked in and they're supplying other teams. So maybe that's an effect in general because RCR is supplying so many teams, and then it might be a big effect for all of them. But in terms of Gibbs, they aren't really running all that great either recently. Ty is now starting to get his comeuppance, but he doesn't have any support because Buckshot Jones is terrible. The 18 car is not a full-time car, so they don't really have the support there. There's no Ford teams out there either. So the only team that really looks pretty solid at the moment is Junior Motorsports, which is to the benefit of the teams that can actually keep that momentum going. Barry has had a lot of rough moments. It's similar to what happened to him last year in his limited schedule, too. He would have his moments where he'd dominate, he'd have great runs, and then he'd have horribleness. You have Gagson, who's there for box office and to go and get the LCD to go and follow. But is he really a finisher? Is he really a closer? Sam Mayer's still trying to figure it out. It all feeds into Justin Allgaier. And it's like, at what point, you've been in the Xfinity Series 12, 13, 14 years or whatever the hell it's been. Or better, like basically, I remember him debuting in Xfinity like in 09. Yeah, it was in 09 after he won the ARCA championship after Scott Speed and O. Richard wrecked each other at Toledo. And then he was there with Penske. Penske got rid of him. He was with Turner Motorsport, which is where the whole brand agriculture sponsorship started, and hence his whole career has been with Brandt ever since. Is it his time? I mean, he's going to be there. This is his career. He's got like the whole Jason Keller, Tommy Houston, those guys that were Randy LaJoy, all those people that spent a lot of their time, many years in the Xfinity Busch Series, just to name a few. You think about late model sportsman Jack Ingram, Hall of Famer, Harry Gant. I'm trying to forget who I'm remembering. Sam Ard. That's where we're getting with Justin Allgaier at this point. So can he join some of those great names as a champion? Or will he stay as one of those names that hasn't won and beat some of the talent that theoretically is moving up the ladder? Josh Berry has voiced a willingness and want to go up to Cup. Gagson, for better or worse, seemingly has got a path up there. I think there's a couple other people that are on that list there. Gibbs, of course, is going to go up to Cup. Mayor's likely going up there. There's a few other people that may have a chance here, but we'll see what happens with that. They'll be running this weekend, of course, at Road America. So we will see what comes off with that. 41 cars for 38 spots. So there will be a little bit of intrigue in qualifying relative to the Cup Series. Let's get into the roundup here. First part will be Tony Stewart going and winning his first race of 2022 in the SRX Series over former combatant in 2005 championship, Greg Biffle, and then his longtime teammate Bobby Labonte in third, and No Neck finished fourth. Helio Castroneves ran over Paul Tracy in one of the heats, and then finished fifth. Tony Kanaan sixth. Ernie Francis Jr. seventh. Marco Andretti had a better car than where he finished. He was way better than eighth. Ryan Hunter-Reay, who hit a lot of stuff, finished ninth. Peyton Sellers, the local hero, finished 10th. Last car who did finish, Michael Waltrip, was in the garage, and
he got sent by Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Got sent by Ryan Hunter-Reay and probably sent him a pink dildo for that. And then Paul Tracy went and sent a bra to Helio Castroneves and I don't know how many other people that hit him. Hunter-Reay hit him too. There's so many people that get pleasure out of watching Paul Tracy finish dead last in every SRX race. And I get it too. It's probably part of the reason why Tommy Kendall will never come on this show, because I'm one of those people who gets a kick out of watching Paul Tracy get his ass kicked, because it's karma. So I'm just going to go and see if we can go and get. They still haven't posted the points yet because their points are kind of goofy. They had the points from Five Flags. They don't have the points up because it's USAC, so it makes sense. They don't have the points, so we'll hopefully have them for you next week because they'll be racing at Stafford, Connecticut this coming weekend for the next round of the SRX. And sexy Lindsay Zorniak will be a part of that broadcast, and the great Willie T. Ribbs. I don't know what he's going to be doing. He won't be eating bologna burgers or whatever. He was interviewing some guy who had been there from the beginning of South Boston Speedway and stuff. And gotta love Willie T. Ribbs.
Yeah,
he don't really add much.
His interviews were good.
Yeah, his commentary is interesting. He's short and sweet, and he uses his vernacular and all that, so you gotta love him. Philippe Albuquerque and Ricky Taylor held off Acura teammates Tom Blomqvist and Oliver Jarvis. So the Wayne Taylor Konica Minolta Acura beat the Meyer Shank Sirius XM Acura to go, and they made a big pass in the bus stop chicane there, the inner loop, to go and get that victory at the Salem 6 Hours at the Glen. Huge win for them. Retake the points lead in the process. Renger Van de Zanda and Sebastian Bourdais finished third in the Ganassi 01. Their teammates Earl Bamba and Alex Lynn finished fourth, and then the 31 Whalen Engineering team with Olivier Pla, Pippo Durrani, and Mike Conway finished fifth. Sixth place, a lap down, was the number 48 with Mike Rockenfeller, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jimmy Johnson. 2 laps down was the JDC Miller Motorsport team with Tristan Vautier, Richard Westbrook, Loic Duval. They announced that their JDC Miller has announced that they're going to be racing with Porsche. They're going to be one of the teams that is a customer team of Porsche for the Porsche 963 program. I saw one of the big time LMP2 competitors in Europe will also be a customer team in the LMDH slash GTP deal there. So Porsche Penske Motorsports has two of their customers set up for next year there. Ben Keating gets another victory. The Wins team, they had a battle there right to the line. Ben Keating, Mikkel Jensen, Scott Huffaker in the number 52 car wins LMP2 over John Ferrano, Louis Delatraz, and Rui Andrade, whatever. My fault. There was a little bit of argy-bargy that went on between the 29 and the 20 car that sent one of the GTD cars, the number, I'm trying to find it, the number 39 car, I think it was a number 39 car, into the fence at the toe of the boot of Jeff Westphal, Corey Lewis, and Robert McGinnis. Those two guys were bouncing off each other and then took out that 39 Lamborghini. Till Bechtelsheimer, who's connected to the Lola, he bought up Lola, so they're going to bring that back. Him, Mario Farnbacher, and Kiffin Simpson in the GTD with an Acura had issues. LMP3s stood out with a lot of their poor performances. The 40, I'm trying to find that Ferrari, that one that was basically a moving chicane 47 car, that's what it was. Yeah, Lacourt, Serna, Giotto, and Fuco, they were a moving chicane in this race too, so I don't know how the hell they're allowed, but whatever, I guess. In LMP3, the 74 Ranch Resort team of Gar Robinson, Felipe Fraga, and Kay Van Bureau win the 6 hours. They win by a lap over John Bennett, Colin Braun, George Kurtz for the Core Autosport, and then the Andretti Autosport team finished third on the same lap as the Core team, Jared Andretti, Gabby Chavez, Josh Burdon. So those were cars that were actually not absolute weapons out there. The BMW number 25 of Connor DeFilippi or John Edwards and Augusto Farfus crossed the line as the winner. And they were followed by, 5 GTD cars. So that's interesting. It shows you how close the categories are these days. May have played, I think the rain delay, the lightning delay also might have played a part in that in regards to the lap count. They won GTD Pro yesterday. Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, Marvin Dienst in a Mercedes won GTD, but both of them got disqualified for drive time infractions. So the harder racing Aston Martin team took the victory in both classes. The number 27 GTD car, the AM car, was the winner with Roman DeAngelis, Maxime Martin, and Ian James. And then with the McLaren finishing second, and the BMW from Turner Motorsports finishing third. The GTD Pro of Ross Gunn and Alex Riberas from Heart of Racing wins GTD Pro over the Daniel Serra, David Rigon, Risi Competizione Ferrari. For people that want me to get into pronunciations, I'm not fucking Bob Varsha, I'm sorry, but I do a pretty good job relative to other people. The Pfaff Motorsports Porsche, Matt Campbell, Matthew Jaminet ends up finishing third in class. There were a bunch of bunch of GTD cars that were ahead of the GTD Pro field, which is, I mean, it helps when there was only 3 cars on the lead lap theoretically for their class, and then there was a bunch that were a lap down. So that's what happened with that. The number 1 BMW Paul Miller Racing qualified on pole for the GTD category. I'm trying to remember who qualified on pole for GTD Pro. I don't remember off the top of my head. Next, they'll be racing this coming weekend at Mosport for the first time since pre-pandemic. So that'll be big. We'll see what happens with that, considering that it's only the DPI, LMP3, GTD Pro, and GTD categories, 27 cars, the usual suspects, the 4 Cadillacs, 2 Acuras. Cadillacs are already throwing a white flag up in regards to their chances, even though, there's BOP, track-specific BOP. 7 entries in LMP3 at the moment. Carl Robinson and Scott Andrews in the 74, John Minnick, Colin Braun in the core Autosport car. Then you have Jared Andretti, Gabby Chavez, solid lineup there. João Barbosa, Lance Wilsey in the Sean Creek Motorsports 33. Ali Ballou, Garrett Grist in the JR3 Racing number 30. Ori Fidani and Kyle Marcelli, AWA number 13. Anthony Mantella, Matt Bell, 47 Motorsports number 7 there. Then you get into the GTD Pro. We don't know who the other driver will be, with Ben Barnicoat in the number 14 for Vassar, Sullivan, Lexus. But you'll have the 3 from Corvette Racing, the 9 from FAF Motorsports, Porsche, and a home race, Ross Gunn, Alex Riberos trying to get 2 in a row. The Harder Racing, Aston, Connor DeFilippi, John Edwards, BMW, RLL, Cooper McNeil, Daniel Uncadella in the WeatherTech Racing Mercedes. 8 entries from GTD, Robert McGinnis, Jeff Westphal, Arbonne by Peregrine Racing Lamborghini. We'll see if they're able to get their car repaired and ready for that. Roman DeAngelis, Maxime Martin trying to get 2 in a row for them as well. You have the Sellers and Snow, Paul Miller Racing BMW, Frankie Montecalvo, Aaron Tielitz, Vassar Sullivan Lexus, Ryan Hardwick, Jan Halen, Wright Motorsports Porsche, Ryan Eversley, Aiden Reed, Rick Rare Racing Acura, Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, Windward Racing Mercedes trying to recover after their penalty, and Robbie Foley, Bill Auberlin, Turner Motorsports BMW making up the field. We'll go over that here next week whenever we do our show from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Okay, so let me just take a second here. So Moto GP took place in Assen last week. Saw Pecco Bagnaia go and get the victory. Fabio Quartararo crashes twice and then costs him a chance. So in the end, we have Pecco Bagnaia wins over Marco Bezzecchi, who runs for the VR46. So Valentino Rossi's team gets their first podium, and Maverick Vinales gets a podium for Aprilia. Alex Spargaro, who's a victim of Fabio Quartararo, ends up 4th. Brad Binder 5th. Jack Miller, Jorge Martin, Joanne Mir, Miguel Oliveira, Alex Rins make up your top 10. In the end, Quartararo crashed himself out along with fellow Yamahas, Darren Binder, Franco Morbidelli, Raul Fernandez on the KTM there as well. Lorenzo Salvadori on a I guess a what do you call wild card Aprilia finished dead last behind Remy Gardner, Stefan Brattle, and the sort. So standings going into the next race, which will be in Great Britain and Silverstone. They have a break. I think they have a month break now. They have their summer break. Fabio Quartararo is 21 points ahead of Aleix Espargaro, and it's basically between those two guys. Johan Zarco is well behind that, basically 60, 50, just under 60 points behind in third. He's got an 8-point lead on Pecco Bagnaia, who has won 3 times this year, but has a bunch of non-point scores. Enea Bastianini, who has 3 wins this year, also is 5th. And that's if I don't get how Bastianini is the one unless he's getting moved up. I guess he's getting moved up to the big team. That's what it has to be. He's getting the call up, and they're keeping Fabio Di Gianantonio with. Okay, I guess that's what it is. That's the top 5. Those Zarco, Bagnaia, Bastianini, 3rd through 5th. And then you go Binder and Miller, Joan Mir, Alex Rins, Miguel Oliveira. You have a pretty close battle, 17 points from 8th to 13th in points. But really, the championship is between Aleix Espargaro and Fabio Quartararo, who's going to win that. In terms of the teams battle, Aprilia actually has the lead over both Yamaha and Ducati by 16 points. So that's something that'll be interesting. I mean, Ducati definitely is going to win the constructors because they have more bikes than Yamaha. Only has 4, and they only have 1 competitive bike. Aprilia has 2, and generally only has 1. So that basically makes the whole deal there. In regards to Moto 2, the results from the last race saw Augusto Fernandez win over Allgaier and Jake Dixon. Celestino Vietti finished 4th. And Bo Bendesnyder, whatever the hell his name is, finished 5th. Joe Roberts finished 8th. And then trying to get through here, Sean Dillon Kelly finished 19th. Cameron Bobier DNF'd with a crash. Standings going into the summer break, Celestino Vietti is now tied with Augusto Fernandez for the points lead, and Allgaier is only a point back. So now it's actually really interesting. For a while, it looked like Celestino Vietti was in good shape, and then he had those offs, a couple of offs here recently. Fernandez has won 3 of the last 5 races, while in the same time, Vietti's won 1 out of the last 5, and 2 top 5 finishes and 2 non-point scores. Joe Roberts is still in 6th. He's only 7 points out of 5th, and he's 19 points out of 4th. But right now it's going to be tough for him unless he goes on a run to make anything happen. Bobier in a battle, he's only 15 points out of 12th, but he's hasn't scored. He didn't score there this weekend, and he had a bunch of points, non-point scores recently in the middle there. He's 15th in points. And then Sean Dillon Kelly, of course, 29th. So they'll be on their summer break here. They won't be back until August in regards to their situation there for Moto GP and Moto 2. Hopefully they'll all stay healthy and everything will be good in regards to that. We'll get into the NHRA. They're getting into the Western swing here shortly. Their winners at Norwalk Summit Racing Equipment Motorsports Park. Mike Salinas gets his 4th win of the year in Top Fuel. Robert Height in Funny Car. Enders and Pro Stock, and Angelle Sampey wins her 46th career Pro Stock motorcycle race. Trying to see Chris Thorne, Pro Mod, Bill Skillman, and Factory Stock in a Mustang. That was that over there. The standings going into the next race. Mike Salinas takes a points lead by 12 over Brittany Force. Steve Torrance and Justin Ashley are just over 5 rounds behind. And then the points get really crazy after that. Outside of the top 10 at the moment are Antron Brown and Tony Schumacher, who have 11 championships amongst those two. So that's pretty big. Leah Pruitt actually got past the two of them. I don't know how the points work now. I think everybody, as long as you show up to every race and make at least a couple of qualifying runs or at least one qualifying run, you're in the playoff, but you're going to be well behind in regards to the seeding, in regards to that. So they haven't even gotten to halfway through the season either, which is crazy. Robert Height, with his 4th win of the year, overtakes Matt Hagan. That's 21 points between the two of them. Ron Capps is 5 rounds back, 100 points even. And it's really a battle between those three. So a Chevy, Dodge, and a Toyota battling for the championship there. Bob Tasca's given up a lot of ground, but he's been running well. So he's got a Ford there. And I'm trying to look at all those, like Blake Alexander shows up every week too. So Chad Green is actually in the top 10. Wow. It's interesting. In Pro Stock, they're only running 18 races supposedly. They're saying 10 to 22, and then they're talking about they were saying 24 races to 18, but I guess they got their math wrong. Enders has just over 5 rounds on Aaron Stanfield, and some other. I guess the points are pretty close there between Hartford, Bo Butner, and Quadra Jr. Fernando Quadra Jr. is only 6 points between those three from 9th to 11th. Troy Coughlin Jr. struggling pretty hard, driving as a teammate to Eric Anders, honestly. Stanfield is, I guess, their second lead dog in regards to the elite people. Koretsky, Glen are part of the team with KB Performance with Greg Anderson. So there is that. And then in Pro Stock Motorcycle, Steve Johnson has a 52-point lead on Angelle Sampey, 55-point lead on Karen Stouffer. So that's 2.5 rounds. And then 5 rounds essentially to Gladstone, Angie Smith, Matt Smith, and Eddie Krawick. So 5.5 rounds there. Points are pretty straightforward with that, unless some of these people can win. So the schedule, getting into the next race. So right now, I'm trying to get into the schedule here. For the next race in NHRA will be the first part of the Western Swing. So they'll have a couple weeks off here before they go to Denver for the Mile High Dodge Power Brokers High Nationals. Then they'll have the Denso NHRA Sonoma Nationals, and then the Flavor Pack NHRA Northwest Nationals at Pacific Raceways in Seattle. So that'll be the Western Swing. So I'll have a couple weeks before we get into the next NHRA event there. Goodwood Festival of Speed saw Max Chilton make himself useful, driving a really cool powered car to a Goodwood record to go and He had the highlights there. He drove the. I'm trying to go through all this and see if they have any news here on their website. Motorsport Planning Diary, Motor Circuit Diary, Goodwood Rival. Don't have any of that. Okay, great. Goodwood Festival of Speed. All right, yeah, he drove Goodwood Festival of Speed 2022. Got here unforgettable experience. Spectacular, yeah. Outright Goodwood Hill record was broken in the McMurdy spiraling fan car. There was debuts by multiple manufacturers. Wayne Rainey got to ride his World Championship Yamaha for the first time since his catastrophic injury back in 1993, and he had a group of his fellow world champion riders with him, and King Kenny Roberts, his owner at that time, riding the Proton. He had Mick Doohan, who ended up following him, following Wayne Rainey, and of course Kevin Schwantz, who won that championship, his longtime rival. And that essentially ended the American domination of motorcycle Grand Prix racing there in that particular point in the world, because Americans dominated at that point. So there were so many cool things. You could see it on their website on YouTube. There were so many great moments, so many cool cars that were there. Max Chilton broke the track record by nearly just over 9/10 of a second, or just under 9/10 of a second there. So, there's the cool moments there. You had Formula One cars, you had drivers, you had Nigel Mansell come back, jump in at his world championship winning Williams and in his Ferrari that he drove in 1990. He had other cars and other things. So
I think
something.
Bobby Rahale's Indycar from the 80s was there too.
Yes. So I mean, there's so many cool cars. It's a bucket list thing that I want to do, is go to the Goodwood Festival of Speed for sure, because it leads into a bunch of great events too. Because you have Wimbledon and the British Grand Prix, so it would be a great vacation. Something I have to work for there. Pikes Peak Hill Climb took place this past weekend, as I mentioned. Bring that up, and Robin Shute wins for a third time in a Wolf, basically a prototype type vehicle, souped up with a 10:09.525 by 25 seconds over David Donner, multiple time winner on the mountain there. Then David Donahue, longtime racer, and his dad legend, and he finished third in another Porsche, so two Porsches. Cody Vascholtz, former winner of the event, his family's been up there for many years, finished fourth. So there was issues with fog, so that played a role in the results and in the times for why that they were slower. I think a cool piece to the results from this year in the 100th running of the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. It was the fact that Rod Millen brought his former record-breaking Toyota Tacoma back to. They have a YouTube channel. Jeez. Okay. Brought his Toyota Tacoma back to race, and he finished 8th overall with his 98 Tacoma at 11:06.152, finished behind his son, Reese Millen by just under 20 seconds, like 18 seconds behind him. Reese Millen drove an Emotion Porsche GT3R, so that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you have Yoshihara exhibition in a Tesla Model 3. Paul Dallenbach, multiple winner of this race, finished top 10 there. You have some other names, like you have Lane Schrantz, who's been there many years, Randy Popst. Trying to go through some of the other, Rob Holland there. There's some women that raced. Lonnie Unser, the Unser name has quite a history there. Of course, with Bobby Unser winning this race. Too. Al Unser is one there too. So, I mean, there's a lot of history there at Pikes Peak. A 98 Toyota Paseo. Wow. Who wants to run a Toyota Paseo? God, Christ.
Yeah.
So that was the result.
Acura had a good running there too, debuting the Integra. Got a top 10 finish for them in the TLX Type S. So that was pretty good debut for track conditions for their new cars.
Yeah, I mean they've had some runs up there in recent years too, so they've had some car drivers and all that. So yeah, get on their YouTube page, I guess. We'll go promote that for them, even though they don't need our promotion. Because it's just cool, and I think even though they don't have, I guess, a presence on the game on Gran Turismo, they're connected to. They have Gran Turismo sponsorship, so you'd think they would put the track on the game. As I mentioned earlier, Saudi-backed Neom is going to sponsor the McLaren Formula E team and their Extreme E program. Lauderer's leaving Formula E. We brought up Rosenquist likely going back to Formula E here, and Nissan will be the power unit powertrain provider for McLaren, which is interesting. And then there will be Mahindra was part of the Goodwood Festival of Speed, debuting the Gen 3 car as well. The race this weekend, Stoffel Vandoorne leads by 5 points over Jean-Eric Verne, and Eduardo Mortara is further 2 points back, so 7 points separate the top 3, 12 points separate the top 4. Mitch Evans in 4th. Nick DeVries, a defending world champion, is basically halfway behind. He's 35, 55, 56 points behind in 6th. To Lauderer back there with his teammate Pascal Wehrlein. Former champions Lucas Degrassi and Antonio Felix da Costa round out the top 10 going to Marrakesh. It'll be one race this weekend, then there will be double headers to end the season in New York and Brooklyn, then in London and Seoul, South Korea, to end the season. So 7 races to go here in the Formula E calendar. And so we'll see what happens with that. Things are changing in Formula E, and we'll probably get into that more as the end of the year comes along, when they get to the start of next year, really, for the new season. Formula 2 comes back this weekend. Felipe Drogovic has the points lead. Obviously, he's had a great year this year. He has nearly 49 point lead overall on Teo Pocher. 59 point lead on Jehan Deruvala. Logan Sargent is fourth. Dennis Hauger is in. And so Logan Sargent's part of a battle that there's 15 points between fourth and 10th. If you get all the way out to 12th, it's 18 points. So 4th to 12th is very close. So that can change this coming weekend in Silverstone. Then they're going to be running at Austria next week, France, and then Hungary. So plenty to race for here as we get into the second half of this season. But Drogovic, who likely won't get a Grand Prix ride, even if he wins this Formula 2 championship, likely to win it, though, as it stands, unless something crazy happens. Formula 3 is way closer. They haven't raced in a while. It's been a couple months. It's been since May. They didn't race all of month of June, so it's been about 6 weeks since they raced the last time. So they'll be racing at Silverstone. They'll race at Red Bull Ring back to back. Then they'll run Hungary, and then they'll come back to race during the return once Formula One returns from their summer break. The point standings are very close right now. Victor Martins is 3 points ahead of Roman Stanek. Jack Crawford is third. Isaac Hadjar is fourth. Artur Leclerc is fifth. Crawford's 10 points back. There's 19 points separating the top five. Juan Manuel Correa is ninth. Kalen Fredericks 12th. Kush Miney 16th. And Hunter Yaney doesn't have any points. I'm trying to get through some of the other people there. So we'll see what happens with that this coming weekend. And then, of course, in the W Series, it's Jamie Chadwick, who dovetails her W Series with the Extreme E competition. And they've been off since Miami. So they'll be racing here this coming weekend. Then they'll race in France and Hungary back to back, and then take a 2-month break, more than 2-month break, before they finish out their season, essentially. Suzuka, Austin, and Mexico City in the month of October. So this will be a busy month for the ladies to see who's going to finish second, because Jamie Chadwick is 3 for 3 so far this year. She won at Spain as well. My fault. They were in Catalonia. Abby Pulling finished. She finished second in 2 of the 3 races so far this year. Alice Powell has finished third in 2 of the 3 races. And then Marta Garcia, Betske Visser round out your top 5. There's only 16 points separating second through 8th, and 21 from second and 9th. Very tight points right now. There's 5 drivers that haven't scored a point so far this year. Chloe Chambers just celebrated her birthday, so happy birthday to her. Was 11th in points. So considering how Americans have struggled, at least an American's going to finally have points here in this W Series. Josh, I'll bring you back in here now. Formula One comes back to Great Britain, the British Grand Prix. It'll be a great homecoming for Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Sounds like certain people are thinking Mercedes will have something to show for themselves because it's a very smooth circuit. But to be honest, we know that it'll be about Max Verstappen and Ferrari versus Ferrari when you come down to it. What are you looking for this weekend at Silverstone at one of birthplace of one of the birthplaces of Formula One? The original first race of Formula One took place there. For them, for the people that are up at the front end of the grid and elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, now we return to Silverstone, where probably you saw the most dramatic portion of the Formula One season last year, when of course, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen made contact, and Verstappen hit the wall, and it was probably the most entertaining thing we saw up until the championship last year. Now we're back at the scene of where all that took place, and with a different type of scene this year. Now with Ferrari basically replacing uh, Mercedes as the combatant to Red Bull in the championship this year. So I think, yeah, the fight's going to continue to be between Verstappen and either of the Ferraris, whether it's Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz. So it's probably going to be a battle between those two. Don't count out um, don't count out Sergio Perez either, because he's also very formidable, and knows he knows how to race, and knows how to make the most out of a good car. He just sometimes runs into poor luck, like he did at the Canadian Grand Prix. So there's that, and then I think of course let's look at Mercedes. They seem to maybe have made some gains. Of course, you saw their the runs that they've had lately. Um, they kind of recovered from their poor run at Baku, with Lewis Hamilton getting onto the podium in Canada. Now, can they come back to basically return home to England, and for Lewis, and possibly get onto the podium, or maybe even more? And they seem to maybe have found something, and especially if they continue to go on tracks where everything is smooth and they don't have a whole lot of rough surface, could bode well for them. But of course, right now it just seems like the Red Bulls are outclassing everybody on pace in this new formula this year. So it's going to be a tough challenge, but we have to wait and see what happens there. Think also, for McLaren, this is their home race too. For both, for Lando, this is a home race, and then for Ricardo, can he come out and try to do better than what he's done lately, and try to at least salvage the season, and maybe show them why he should stick around another year in Formula One. Period. Not even just for McLaren, but the fact is he could be facing possibly an exit from the sport at the end of the year if things don't go turn out well for him. So look out for them to try to make a play this weekend, and upcoming weekend, and see if they possibly score a points finish, or maybe something right outside of the podium for either of those cars. Especially being a home track race, you want to be able to um, have a good run in front of your home fans in England there. So look out for that. We'll see, Fernando Alonso and Alpine. Can they kind of continue the momentum that they kind of found at Sir Gilles Villeneuve? Can they, qualify well, within the top 10 once again? Can Fernando Alonso, hold on to track position, once the race gets going? And are, they going to be able to kind of execute their strategy a little bit better than what they did at Canada, where they seemingly went against the grain, and then were never able to recover from that? So, look out for that. Think other teams to look at. I think look at AlphaTauri and Pierre Gasly. Can they finish well in the points, and continue to carry the flag for that team as they go on throughout the season, and kind of be one of the teams that can be competitive in the midfield fight. So I think for me, I think those are probably the teams to look out for this weekend at the Formula One Grand Prix. Don't think it's going to be anything dramatic like last year, but you never know what it's going to be like in Formula One, especially this season with the way the cars are racing. So we'll have to see what happens. But I think it's going to be the probably this start of where we see the direction of the championship go, whether it continues to go in the direction of Red Bull and Max Verstappen, or can Ferrari begin to gain some momentum and cut into the points championship and maybe swing it back into their direction in their favor. And this is kind of last year where Lewis Hamilton was able to kind of begin his charge towards getting to the championship. Being able to, I mean, obviously he didn't win, but this is kind of the where things started to change, and you saw the momentum swing in his favor throughout most of the summer, and going into the fall before Verstappen kind of started to pull it back in his direction. So look out for that. Ferrari can kind of use this race as a kind of a springboard into the future of the season, where potentially they might be able to take the drivers' championship points lead and possibly even the constructors' championship lead away from Red Bull. And I think you have to look at this race as a important inflection point in that in that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, we have to see what Mercedes is going to do. I think that's a huge piece in regards to what Red Bull is going to do, or what Red Bull is going to have to say for their situation if they're able to um, go and battle two teams, because Ferrari's kind of made it easy on them with their issues with the in regards to um, not being able to finish. That's played a big part. And then you go and get into um, how Ferrari also has given away a lot of points. So I think those things are all there. You have to look at that and go and figure out what's going to come from those two teams. What can they do? What can they do to make Max Verstappen, Red Bull, Sergio Perez actually have to earn it? Can Mercedes have a clean weekend throughout? If they can do that, then Lewis Hamilton could stand out, could have a chance to finally win. Maybe he can win a pole. I think George Russell, you have to really look at him. He's been the more consistent guy all year. Qualifying is generally went in his favor, but it's kind of been in between. But in the race, definitely been more consistent than Lewis. If they could have a clean weekend, and it sounds like they've figured out the porpoising issues and whatever, this race, the race in France, maybe not as much at Red Bull Ring, could be a big turning point for their season. They're not going to win the Constructors' Championship, but they can make it very hard on Red Bull to have to get this Constructors' Championship. And I think that's what, if you're watching Formula One right now, that's what you want to see, unless you're a fan of fish lips and Red Bull, is making those fucking cocksuckers earn it. So I can go and see Lewis win a race and win a pole to continue his streak that he's had his whole entire career. That's essentially what I'm looking for at this point. Get one of each and then, call it a day. He ain't going to do anything. This year it's more about 2023. I think George is the one that's kind of trying to make something happen here, have his best finishes of his career here this year to give him the momentum going into 2023. But those guys, that'll be the battle. Up top, McLaren is right there with Alpine. What are those teams going to do? Alfa Romeo's had their moments this year. Haas, Aston Martin, those are all have kind of had their moments this year. Williams has struggled mightily most of this year. Will that continue? More than likely, yes. Aston Martin struggled a lot. To be determined what happens amongst the rest of the grid in regards to Formula One in the standings in regards to the teams and all that. I mean, Haas has not had much to show for anything since Imola. Williams scored 2 points in Miami, but other than that, two out of the 3 points there So it's been pretty brutal for them. Aston Martin only just passed Haas right now, so they're the three back-end teams. AlphaTauri's in their own world. Alfa Romeo, Alpine, and McLaren are racing for that midfield battle. What can those teams do there as we get into this next part of the calendar prior to, of course, the summer break, which will we have 4 races, and then we're going to have the summer break. So we have Silverstone, we have Austria, Paul Ricard, and Hungary before the summer break. So it's going to be big in regards to what comes from that. Max Verstappen goes into this weekend's race coming off of 4 wins, 6 wins total. So far this year. And I think he won the sprint race as well or whatever at Imola. So that was he's got 6 wins so far in 9 races, and he has a 46-point lead on Sergio Perez. Perez is 3 points ahead of Charles Leclerc in third. George Russell's fourth, 9 points ahead of Carlos Sainz, who's in fifth, and Lewis Hamilton is in sixth. He's 25 points behind Carlos Sainz. Something to look at as we go into that. This weekend, we're going to run at one of the classic tracks for IndyCar at Mid-Ohio. Josh, IndyCar season. I mean, I'd be remiss before we get past that. I forgot to mention that during the roundup that Robert Wickens and his co-driver Mark Wilkins won the TCR category at Watkins Glen during the Michelin Pilot Challenge. So that was the first victory for Robert Wickens in September of 2017. In his career, of course, he suffered the massive injuries at Pocono in 2018, which left him having to use a wheelchair. But the fact of the matter is now, with hand controls and through training and hard work and everything that he's gone through, Robert Wickens is back in victory lane. And it went across all of motorsports, the amount of people that were happy about seeing a great man return and to go and get a victory there at Watkins Glen for Brian Hurd Autosport and the Hyundai Elantra program that they have there. So former IndyCar driver, of course, getting into the race here this weekend at Mid-Ohio. Marcus Ericsson leads the points, so over Joseph Newgarden, over Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, Pat O'Ward, and Alex Palou. Those are top 5. Palou, the defending series champion. Ganassi's come out and basically said you're going to see a status quo with his team. So it doesn't, at least he's no selling the thought that somebody is going to take over for Jimmy Johnson for now. But I have a hard time believing that Jimmy Johnson is going to stay for a full season next year unless something changes. But, in regards to Mid-Ohio, Josh, it's a tough racetrack. It's a great track for Scott Dixon. I mean, there's very few tracks that aren't great tracks for Scott Dixon over his legendary career. But Dixon, of course, looking for a win. He hasn't won this year. They're going to be going back to Toronto here in a couple weeks' time for the first time since pre-pandemic. And then they're going to get into a very busy time of the calendar. This race, after this race, they're going to be very busy for a month. They're going to run 3, 4, 5, 6 races in the span of a month. what is it? 3 oval races, 2 street races, and then the second race at Indy Grand Prix prior to the last 2 races of the calendar. So it's going to get very busy. This is a time where if you can go and get some momentum, it could really set your path to possibly going and winning an IndyCar championship for sure. Newgarden's won twice there. Colton Herta won in 2020. Will Powers won there. Will Powers a winner there previously. Scott Dixon has won 6 times at Mid Ohio, last time in 2019. Rossi, Charlie Kimball won his first career race there, and only race as of now. Graham Rehal won there. Pagano, as I mentioned. Dario won there once. Scott Dixon won there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Yep. So are we looking at Scott Dixon finally get over the hump, or will it be somebody else? Will it be a Penske? Will it be an Andretti car? Who are you looking at for this weekend at Mid-Ohio? Qualifying does make a difference to a point. I mean, yes, Dixon has come from 22nd, dead last, to win in 2014, and Graham Rahal came from 13th. But otherwise, the vast majority of people have come from the top 10 and really inside of the top 5 to win. So if you make the Firestone Fast 6, it really stands to reason that you have a pretty good shot, given the circumstances, to go and win there, because it's a very tough track to pass at, Josh.
Yeah, it's a very tough track to go and make passes at. So track position very very important here at Mid Ohio, and I think once you get the lead, you got to do a really good job of keeping it and maintaining your track position and clean air, especially at this racetrack. I think the real key passing zone is being able to make something happen in the keyhole in turn 2. So you really have to have a good turn 1 to set up that turn 2, and obviously even before that, you have to be able to close up and in the S's, going all the way back from turn 10 down turn 11, turn 12, turn 13, have a good set of corners there to be able to set up turn 1 and then possibly make a pass into the keyhole in turn 2. That's probably the best opportunity to pass there. And then, also again, going into turn 4 to start the S's there. So it's going to be an interesting race, I think. And you talk about Scott Dixon. He's won here before, won in 2019 at this race. In 2020, I think had an issue and spun out, had a rare mistake at this race in 2020, and almost, I wouldn't say almost cost him the championship, but certainly put him in a lot more vulnerable position than what he would have liked to be in. So yeah, it's definitely a tough race to be in, and make things happen, and it's a very physical racetrack, so a lot of things can happen. But I think this would be a track, yeah, definitely for Scott Dixon to try to win at. As you said, he's got a lot of history at this place, and he knows how to win at this racetrack and at others. So with his ability to stay cool, calm under pressure, as long as he's up there, you can always count on him to make something happen. But I would also look at his teammate Marcus Ericsson. As we've talked about before, he's points leader, and he's been very consistent. He's not got the flashiest speed. He's not like a Colton Herta who's like super quick, but he's very very consistent. And we've mentioned before his finishing and consistency in this series. He's scored more points overall since the Indianapolis 500 back in 2021, and basically until now. So he's done a really really good job of having consistency and maintaining or getting the best out of his finishes there. So look for him again to be able to possibly get a podium. He got a podium at Road America, and possibly extend his championship points lead. Currently has 27 points over Will Power. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's able to do if he can maintain his position and possibly build upon his points lead in the championship, and maybe cement himself as a favorite for the title as we go on later this year. Like you said, this could be a race that helps determine your future in the championship here. So look out for that, and then also look at the other Swede, Felix Rosenqvist. 2019 in his rookie season finished second. This is to his teammate Scott Dixon. That was a race he possibly could have won, I think. And I think he's another guy who's had some interesting runs as of late. He had a good run at the Indianapolis 500. Finished 10th at Belle Isle, and then 6th place at Elkhart Lake and Road America. So definitely we could see something from him this weekend where he's able to, if not a podium, you can probably count on him to finish at least in the top 10. So he might be somebody that could possibly be in sneaky contention, I guess. Alex Palou, last year's champion, hasn't won yet this year, and I think this is definitely a track that they've course that they definitely got to be able to capitalize on this weekend, especially being able to come out of there with a win would be great, and get him back into championship contention in this championship. So we'll have to see if he's able to accomplish that. Pato Award already won a race this year at Birmingham. Can he win once again this season? Had a poor finish at Road America with the electrical issue with his engine. So can he recover from that and possibly win or score a podium finish? I think this track technically is probably similar to Barber Motorsports Park, so there could be some similarities there, and you can draw from that talent, from that knowledge of both those tracks, and potentially come out on top. We'll have to see. And then I think another driver you're gonna have to look at is Alexander Rossi. Of course, like Rosenqvist, he's had a last good month and a half or so of IndyCar, going back to the 500. Had good finish there, good finish at Detroit and at Road America. So he's kind of on a run of at least getting a top 5 the last 3 races, and talked about him possibly getting a win at some point in by the end of the season. Last season in IndyCar with Andretti Autosport, can he come out and possibly get a final victory with that team? And what a better place to do that than Mid Ohio? So I think it's going to be a tough race. As track's very physical, one of the more physically demanding races that the series goes to every year. So we're gonna have to see which drivers can come out on top and give themselves an opportunity to be able to contend in this points championship. So it's going to be an interesting race to watch for sure.
It's something that we're going to see for sure. I mean, Dixon, based on his history, of course, is outstanding. 6 wins, 11 top 5s, 15 top 10s, and 16 starts at the track. Led 261 laps. Has run at the finish of 15 of 16 races. So every single time he's finished in the top 10. Alexander Rossi, 6 of his 7 races he's ran there has been in the top 10, and he's 5 top 5s and a win. Will Powers run 14 times at the track, 9 top 5s, 11 top 10s, 13 lead lap finishes, but 11 out of 14 races with 1 win. Grosjean made his debut there last year, finished 7th. Pagenaud's ran there 12 times with 9 top 10 finishes and 5 top 5s. Colton Herta's run there 4 times, 3 top 10s, 1 top 5, which was a win. Out of 4 races, Newgarden 6 top 10s and 4 top 5s with 2 wins and 11 starts, trying to go and win his 3rd IndyCar championship. So those are all people that are there. Of course, a wild card is Green Hall. 15 starts, 10 top 10s, 6 top 5s, and 1 win. Starting position is a big issue for him, though. His average start of 11.5 with a 9.5 average finish. For Scott Dixon, his starting position is 6.9 average for 16 races, which isn't bad. Will Power, of course, he's qualified more poles than anybody that isn't named AJ Foyt. I think he passed Mario Andretti, or he's close to passing Mario Andretti in regards to number of poles. So, I mean, Will Power is probably a likely person that will be there. He's qualified on poles 63 times in his career with 41 wins. So he's up there with the Andretti's there, of course. So something to be seen. What will come from that? Is that Izod? Oh, they non-classified the Las Vegas Motor Speedway race. Yeah, that was the death race. Yeah. What heat races? Okay, yeah. I'm trying to look. Oh, those are iRacing. Okay, and then all right. So, personally, I think it's a time for Ganassi to win. They're due. I mean, yeah, Rosenquist has won, but his much more heralded teammates are due to win here in this spot. Whether it's Dixon, whether it's even Alex Palou, one of those two, to give themselves a chance in this IndyCar championship. I think this is the time. This weekend is going to play a big role, honestly, in what we're going to see the rest of the season. Because after that, it's really back-to-backs, and you're going to be right on it. You have Toronto, 2 races at Iowa, Indy GP, and Nashville street course, all essentially right on top of each other, back-to-back-to-back. So Mid-Ohio is a place to go and set yourself up and make something happen this year. And if Joseph Newgarden gets his 4th win of the year, I have a hard time believing anybody's really going to get by him. Power's been uber consistent this year. Best average finish so far. Qualifying he's qualified on pole once. Poles have been going across the board. Lots of people have been getting poles this year. Leading laps, a lot of people have led laps. Of course, Scott McLaughlin has become more inconsistent as the season has gone by, but he's led the most laps so far this year. Dixon has led the 2nd most laps, but he's only 6th in points. His average start relative to Will Power is 0.7 behind him, but Joseph Newgarden's given up 5 spots to him, essentially 4.5 spots to him. He's given up 3.5 spots to Pato O'Ward. So that's something we have to see. Can Alex Palou? Alex Palou started relatively well. He has 3 podiums this year, but hasn't gotten that win. Can Scott Dixon qualify better? Can, like Alexander Rossi, qualify better? Can some of these other people go and make a run to make this thing interesting? Because otherwise, Ericsson right now is going to he'll be in a battle to fight against Power and Newgarden for this championship if things stay the way they are. But we'll get into that for episode 122. We'll tell you what happens there at Mid-Ohio. Cup and Xfinity this weekend at Road America. It's going to be a few weeks before we get the trucks back. They'll be at Mid-Ohio. At that point, the Quick Trip 250 at Road America, 37 cars will be starting, which will see Joey Hand drive for Rick Ware in the 15, AJ Allmendinger in the 16 for Colleague. Kyle Tilley will be in the 78 for BJ McLeod's team. And then Loris Hensemans will be in the 27 car for his dad's team. So there won't be any people at DNQ in regards to that. Getting in a race at Road America. I mean, of course, Clyde won the race last year. Just gonna go and I'll bring up the fantasy stats here in road courses, all length, last 10 races, get rankings. The average finish is Chase Elliott, of course, is by far the best average finish. He's got a 5.6 average with 3 wins, 7 top 5s, and 8 top 10s. Blaney is second, actually, in average finish with a 10.4 in the last 10 road races with 2 top 5s and 6 top 10s. Larson third, 3 wins all last year, of course, 5 top 5s and 5 top 10s. Alex Bowman and Denny Hamlin, your top 5. Chris Buescher, of course, had a second place finish at Snoroma, is 6th. Joey Logano 7th. Kurt Busch 8th. Ross Chastain 9th. And Eric Jones rounding out your top 10 there. I'm trying to go and bring up the results from last year at Road America. The Jockey Made in America 250 presented by Quick Trip saw Chase Elliott lead the most laps, 24 laps, from after starting tailback. Had issues in qualifying. William Byron actually qualified on pole. Won the race over Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Denny Hamlin, so to look like a Gibbs benefit. Chase Briscoe started 35th and finished 6th, which was, I think, his best finish last year. Ross Chastain 7th, Tyler Reddick 8th, Truex 9th, DiBurrito rounded out your top 10. So a lot of guys that started in the back were able to move up, but whether that was in part due to strategy or whatever, starting position didn't play as big of a role in the result. Honestly, there was issues for some of the people that did start up front, especially Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, like that. So, I mean, we look at that there, Josh. I mean, Xfinity is a little more straightforward, I would think. But what are you looking for? I mean, they moved. It looks like, yeah, Joe Graff got moved to. He got sent to the BJ McLeod team so they could put Andy Lally in the car because their points and Cole Custer.
Got demoted.
Yeah, he got pseudo demoted because Cole Custer is going to be in the 07 car. Andy Lally is going to be the 08 car. So Ty Dillon's driving for Johnny Davis Motorsports, interestingly. Kyle Larson will be driving the Hendrick 17, so that's my pick. Yeah, Miguel Paludo will be in the 88 car. So Sammy Smith, the ARCA driver, be in the 18 car, so he'll be somebody to look at. But I already picked Kyle Larson for the Xfinity race because he's going to qualify unless they're not going to rain it out. So I figure he'll get in the show. They're not trying to go and make sure the 17 car doesn't make 2 races in a row. But who are you looking at this weekend at Road America?
I mean, well, if you're going to go Kyle Larson, I may as well go with the other obvious pick, and that's AJ Allmendinger here at Road America. I think it's going to be a battle between road course ringers, this racetrack, or, well, Cup veterans who know how to road race. And, Kyle Larson's got a lot of, beyond 2021, has actually done fairly decent on the road courses in the past. And I think now he's on a really good team that has got the road course program put together pretty well. So expect him to be up front. But AJ Allmendinger has been kind of the de facto road course king of the Xfinity series, and since he basically returned to Xfinity competition since after his Cup career went down the drain and everything. For the most part, he's done really well in these cars in this series at road courses. So pick him to win, and I think he's probably got a good chance of winning it because there's a good chance that it would happen. But beyond him, I mean, look at Miguel Paludo making a one-off start. So he's the real road course ringer in this race, making a one-off start for the '88 car, and Jared Motorsports possibly could be a guy to look out for. Andy Lally, like you mentioned just a couple minutes ago, he getting the start in the 08 car. I don't know if they'll win, but Andy Lally's a guy who knows how to road race, and can certainly see him putting it up in the top 10 by the end of the day in that car. So don't count him out for at least a top 10 run for that team. I think maybe another guy you look at is Justin Allgaier. I mean, hey, he's won at this racetrack before at Road America several years ago, so definitely could see him coming out with a good run here at Road America. He's one of those guys that you don't think of as a road racer, but he knows how to at least get the job done. So look out for that. Think also look out for Ty Gibbs, who's another racer who's had success since he came to the series, as won in the past on road courses. So why not expect him to at least run up front? But I think at the end of the day, like I said, I think it's going to be AJ Allmendinger coming out on top, and I think he'll be able to defeat road course expert Kyle Larson here in the Xfinity Series at Road America.
Yeah, the Xfinity Series race will be a lot more carnage, a lot longer, because Xfinity, they don't know what NASCAR doesn't know what a local yellow is. It'll also allow for people that are road racing veterans to stand out. The cup drivers that need a little more experience to get some, or to actually get better at it. The likes of Ty Dillon being an example of that. I mean, Kyle Larson is just trying to trophy hunt. I mean, I look at the team with the I'm forgetting the team that the Xfinity team that the 07 is they don't show the 07 SS Greenlight. So the SS Greenlight team, they're trying to hedge because they have Joe Graff sitting there running like shit most of the year. That's pretty weak. They're trying to actually put somebody in the car that knows how to drive, because David Starr also doesn't have a clue. So putting Andy Lally in the car is pretty good there in that spot. I mean, then you have Cole Custer, of course, who won at ACS earlier this year, so that'll be something. Those are just a few of the people. I mean, Preston Pardus has had his moments on road courses driving for what's his name? Am I forgetting his name? Mario Goslin's team. Reddick is another inside guy. I mean, I find it weird that when they have a guy who is a road racer as a driver in I'm forgetting his name too now. Their usual driver was a road racer, but then they're keeping Tyler Reddick in the car, so that's somebody that stands out as a possibility for sure too. I'm not sure in regards to points who's where. I would say that the point situation, when you look at some of these smaller teams like the DGM team, the Carl Long with the 13 car, BJ McLeod's team with the 78, the DGM team with the 92 as well. So that's where the DNQs could be coming from. The Emmerling Gase team is another one with the 35. Weatherman with the 34 car. I mean, he actually knows how to drive, so that actually could play in their favor, even though they'll probably break early in the race. Trying to see who else is in that might have some issues with the points. I mean, Ty Dillon, the 5 car with Joe Graff, that's another one that could have some issues in regards to owner points relative to their ability to go and make the field. So qualifying will actually be somewhat intriguing in the Xfinity series. In the Cup series, though, as we brought up earlier, it may not be as big of an issue considering some of the guys. Basically, Kyle Busch started dead last, Briscoe started 35th, Chase Elliott won from 34th. The guy, what is it, Austin Dillon and O. Richard started 37th, 38th. They all finished in the top 12. So it's possible to come from the back, of course, with strategy and all that to get up there and make something happen. But you really want to give yourself a chance to run up front, have a better pit position, and kind of move from there relative to, having to rely on pitch strategy or rely on other things to fall in your favor. I would think, but when it comes to this field, this Sunday, Josh, I mean, the favorite is Clyde until further notice. But there are drivers that need a win, that need some positive momentum. I mean, the likes of Chase Briscoe and Austin Cindric, who are on the bottom end of the points for drivers who have won one race. Those are guys that need a big run. You have drivers that haven't won a race, and Ryan Blaney, who's the second best average on road courses right now. You have Martin Truex Jr., who's won multiple road course races. That's just a few people. McDowell made his name on road courses way back when. There's just a few people. I mean, the Trackhouse team has been great on the road courses this year. Suarez winning at Sonoma and Ross Chastain at Coda. So those are just a few examples of people that could win. I mean, it starts with Clyde, but it isn't straightforward. I think we're either going to see a new winner or somebody that's been in the back end of that field, whether it's, Austin Cindric or Briscoe. I think one of those two guys does something here on Sunday, or my pick is going to be Martin Truex Jr. To win this race on Sunday. He is announced for next year. He's going to get to do his retirement tour and all that. But I think Martin Truex, they probably should have won yesterday. I think he's going to win on Sunday at Road America. Get his first win of the year, get a 13th different winner. And if it wasn't him, Ryan Blaney winning wouldn't shock me either, in regards to that. But what are your picks?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities that could happen. I think, yeah, there's definitely a lot more competitive depth. When you talk about who could possibly win this race here at Road America in the Cup Series. So, you talked about all those guys like Chastain, Austin Dillon. You mentioned Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex, all guys that have a lot of experience racing, road course racing, or have like tried to improve their ability to road race outside of the series. So it's very interesting with what could happen. And we talked about Xfinity, Kyle Larson and AJ Allmendinger both running that race in the series, and Ty Dillon as well. So, uh, I think Kyle Larson or AJ Allmendinger are also very easy picks to make for this race here, and both of them could easily win. I think Denny Hamlin also is another guy who's good at road course racing that could potentially come out and win this race, and he would get a third win, which was on the table yesterday in Kentucky. Well, if he gets a third win, then puts himself on top of the series and would be the effective leader in terms of wins and the playoff field for the NASCAR Cup Series. So. You have that, and then there are other drivers that haven't won, like you said, like Austin Dillon, like Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex, and then even guys like Kevin Harvick, who have also been pretty good historically on road courses, and he hasn't won in a long time, and this would be a great opportunity for him to win and be that 13th driver. And even guys who haven't won ever, like Tyler Reddick, who seemingly he hasn't won anything yet in the Cup Series, and potentially could win if things go right this weekend for him at Road America, or someone like Michael McDowell, who has actually been kind of on a little bit of a run as of late. Scored most of his top tens in the last like 2 months in Cup, so could potentially come out on top. I mean, he knows how to road race as well, so a lot of possibilities here, a lot of talented drivers here in the Cup Series that could potentially win. And I think you're probably right. We end up seeing whether it's a 13th winner in the Cup Series, whether it's a brand new winner who hasn't won before, or a new winner this season uh, who just hasn't won yet this year. It's likely probably to happen. So uh, I do like the volatility here in the Cup Series with the way things going, the parity, equality between all the teams. That there isn't really one team that's really been, or driver that's been really like consistent throughout the entire year. There's teams that go through stretches like we're seeing right now with Joe Gibbs Racing and to some extent Hendrick Motorsports currently right now. But there's no one team that's been consistent since Daytona all the way to that's been the team to pick every week. It's been kind of up and down for pretty much every team in the garage. So um, I think Road America adds to it. Even with the unpredictability that can happen on road courses, and with the restarts that we're gonna get with stages, and uh, at least two cautions. It could add up to multiple things that happen throughout the race. So those are things you have to look out for. And then, of course, we've talked about it before with the stages. I think the stages affecting strategy. Well, obviously, they know how to strategize around that, and it makes it look, boring, or not boring, but I guess like unconventional to us. But they know how to play around that. So there's that, and we'll see how teams try to play the strategy for fuel relative to the stages to position themselves going into the final stage, at least in the top 10, if not in the lead or in the top 5. So there's that to consider as well. And we were talking about drivers who haven't won yet, and another driver that I thought of while I was talking about this is Chris Buescher, who, of course, his team has they're likely to be suspended, the crew chief and crew members, for the loose wheel that came off of his car on yesterday, but ran second at Sonoma Raceway. Can they come out, and we talked about it before with them, with RFK doing road course testing? Can they come out on top and potentially get his first win since 2016? So first win for him, and uh, for that team in a long time. So that's also on the table. So again, another driver that could potentially win. Add that 13th name to the list of winners in the season, and we're going to continue to see the wild wackiness that we seemingly have seen this year with the point standings, with the number of winners that we've seen already this year. That looks like we're probably going to be on track for 16 winners. So we'll see what happens. And of course, it's the start of the summer now, and traditionally it seems like with every summer before the chase playoffs start, we always have a lot of volatility of winners, and we get surprise winners that qualify themselves into the playoffs. So this is probably the start of it, and we just need three new winners before the start of the playoffs. So I think we'll see at least three winners now, and I think this race here at Road America is the start of it.
Yeah, that's something that we're gonna have to see. I mean, this next nine races is gonna play a huge role in regards to the playoffs, and anything that happens is gonna play a part. I mean, it's gonna be a big push on the teams. Any mistakes are gonna be magnified because they're gonna have to run the season out on the Cup side, and who does what out there. Uh, Josh, let us know what you're doing in regards to the sim side of things, iRacing and the like. I saw posts on my YouTube in regards to some people I follow with F1 2022 and some of the other games as well. But what are you doing on that, or anything that you've heard? Any news items that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen too much lately in the news side of sim racing, although yes, F1 2022 is coming out soon. Gonna have to, yeah, pick it up this year, which I think EA Sports is publishing it, which I think they did last year, but they did not have the EA Sports branding on it last year, which I think they did because they acquired Code Masters, who's the used to be the producer. Now I think they still are, but now it's under the EA Sports branding now. So brought EA Sports back into the fold of F1 games. If you remember back in the day, they had the F1 Challenge 99 to 2002 or '01, whatever it was back then, which was one of the F1 games that was out on consoles produced by EA Sports. So, uh, don't think anything will really change, but now we'll get to experience the new formula this year, and the new circuit with the Miami International Autodrome that we raced at earlier this year with the Miami Grand Prix. So finally be able to get to race the video game version of that once the game comes out, and yeah, definitely have to go out and pick up the game. Hopefully by then maybe I'll have something figured out with that actually being able to use my wheel on my console, because either have to get an adapter for it since it's an older wheel, or figure something out there, or just go controller and just play it casually there. But yeah, we'll see what happens once the game comes out, and definitely gonna be an interesting game there to play, especially if you're a new person trying to get into Formula One. It's video games are a great way to get involved into racing, because you actually get to race the cars that you see when you're watching, and you get to play as them as well. And that's what got me into it as a kid. So it's a great way to connect with it. On the iRacing things side of things, yeah, I think this week probably going to be doing Cup at Road America. Probably just think they are also doing Road America this week. I think probably going to be doing Cup and Xfinity at Road America. I think the Legends cars, the '87 cars, are running Daytona, so try to run those if I have some time. The Mazda Miatas, of course, always try to pick those up once a week. I think they're doing Lime Rock Park this week. Gonna need to look at some of the other road racing series. I think I don't have a schedule pulled up on me, but probably will try to run the Honda Civic Type R this week again. So I did some over the weekend at Watkins Glen, and was definitely driving a little bit too hard than I normally do. I think was just trying to go up through the field, because I had an issue with my steering wheel in qualifying, and needed to make some adjustments to that, so I didn't actually post a qualifying time. Started in the back, and made my way up uh, pretty quickly in that race, but started to get a little bit impatient, because it's like, when you pass a bunch of cars, on the first lap, you're like, all right, well, now I got to try to pass everybody. And then you start over driving the corners, and um, driving a little bit too defensively, and maybe not being as patient or as calm as you'd like to be. So made some mistakes there, and gave some positions back that I should have had in that one that I raced on Saturday night. Think there was another one at the Mazda Miata series. Had I think I had second place on the second lap, and then um, got spun out. Somebody tried to dive bomb me and totally missed the corner, and spun me out. So wasn't too happy with that, but recovered at least to get a sixth place finish in that series. Out of 12, they're running in that series. So at least there's a little bit of a good recovery there. Think yeah, that's mostly it for the sim racing stuff. Of course, like I mentioned the other day, at some point they're gonna announce the uh Firecracker 400 for the E-Racer GG League, which of course that'll attract big stars like Dale Jr., Kyle Busch, Raja Caruth, and other people that who are sim racers and also compete competitively in NASCAR for real in real life. And I think Parker Kligerman, I think he's either announcing or he's gonna actually race. And same thing with Landon Castle. I think they for this one, I think they just announce or do the scoring or whatever, and they don't actually compete. But that is a league that they compete in on their own from time to time when they have the availability to do it. But it's going to be a big event for sure, and look forward to competing in it. Hopefully I have the time. As long as I'm available and don't have anything going on it. Extracurricular. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But definitely looking forward to that once it comes out. And just waiting for the announcement right now of when the event is going to be because they said soon, like a week ago or something. And just waiting on that announcement to take place.
Absolutely, and we'll be able to go and follow you there on your Twitch profile. So let us know where we can go and find you on Twitch and on other social media channels.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as always, follow me Twitch TV/USailor2, and you see my streams. I mean, haven't really streamed lately. I mean, of course, I did talk about my iRacing stuff, but didn't stream. Sometimes you just want to go out there and race and stuff, and don't always want to put out your streams and stuff. And you know, think this weekend just wanted to just kind of go out there and race. But I think for some of the bigger events, definitely try to stream or whenever I feel like it. But yeah, go there, Twitch TV/UCO2, and then of course follow social media. Follow at JP Huffine on Twitter and see the takes on what happened on Sunday and other things that you might be interested in. I try to post it on my profile, and of course try to post the show when once it's out and you can see everything that I'm interested in. And I think for the YouTube page, of course, we're expanding to YouTube and have the video streams up on there as well with the audio streams. So you can go on YouTube at the Grip Strip podcast page and see our streams and see our latest videos. Of course, we had our latest video with Joe Passero from last Friday, and we had a good 3 hour long discussion on everything that happened in NASCAR and other things throughout the previous weekend. So go on there and watch that and recap that. And of course, we'll have this episode out here pretty soon, and you can go on the YouTube page and watch that. So go and subscribe, like, comment, and do all the YouTube things to go on and watch our videos and continue to give us support.
Absolutely, and thanks as always for being my co-host and backup and doing your thing and providing your takes and insights in regards to all things motorsports, man. And follow Josh on his Twitch stream once he's able, if he's wanting to go out there and run some of these races, figure the Firecracker, he'll be out there. And want to follow his stream running them 87 cars for sure. You can follow me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. There will be plenty of Colorado Avalanche related tweets on top of my page, essentially, because I'm still happy and excited that they won the Stanley Cup. You can follow me there. You can follow me follow us at Grip Strip Pod on Twitter, where we post the shows and post some other content. We're on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, Verbal, YouTube, of course, with the Grip Strip Podcast. You can follow us, philipgmatthew.com. That's my website. The show gets posted over there. So if you want to find out what my thoughts are on racing or thoughts in general, you can find me on Twitter can find me on Instagram at PhilipGMatthew28. Mostly bowling stuff over there. Hoping to post some big ones here this week and as the rest of the summer goes along. But thank you, as always, for listening to Gripster Podcast, liking, subscribing, downloading. Percentages are going up, so that's positive. Got consistent following. We appreciate that. Likely going to do a hit at least once, maybe twice this coming week on the F1 Grid Talk podcast. Probably doing the preview for Austria at a minimum. Likely going to do the review, but we will see. We'll see what happens. British Grand Prix will be back for episode 122 of the Gripster Podcast to go over everything that went over that took place this weekend. It'll be, of course, British Grand Prix, IndyCar Mid-Ohio, Cup and Xfinity at Road America. Formula 2, 3, and then W Series at Silverstone, W Series, and then whatever else is going to be coming along the following week. Of course, NASCAR will be racing the following week there. And we'll get into all that and whatever else is going on in regards to the world of motorsports and sports here on the Gripster Podcast. We thank you once again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.